All About Beer receives underwriting support from Allagash Brewing Company. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp makes it easy for breweries to stock up on the essential packaging and promotional supplies all in one place. From beer labels and keg collars to coasters, beer boxes, and more, they've got you covered. Plus, every product is backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee, and their full-time support squad is ready to help anytime. Visit stompstickers.com and use code THINKBEER for 15% off of your first order. If you're running a brewery, owner or operator, Beer 30 by The Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery's sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and to the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and receive 3 free months of Beer 30. Every year at Little Beer, I get to host a panel with great brewers about how they brew small and what the consumer appetite is like for low ABV offerings. This year was no exception. As the pints were flowing on the Duluth, Georgia town green, I sat down with Natalie Rose Baldwin, the brewmaster at the lager-focused Wayfinder Beer in Portland, Oregon, Shaun Yasaki, the brewmaster and owner of Noble Beast Brewing Company in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, and Brandon Plyler, the beer educator at Edmund's Oast Brewing in South Carolina. Here's our conversation. There's so much that I love about this festival, right? And first and foremost, it is just because it's this celebration of small beers. And for so long, I think in American craft, it was how high can we go? We lived through the IBU wars. It was, we're bourbon barrel aging everything. It's, there is this badge of honor with banging yourself up. And at some point, I think craft brewers started paying attention a little bit more and saying there's a lot of big beer that is 4% or 5% or 3.2, and people really seem to be liking that, and we should be drinking that. And then, mild started coming back, and some of the English style ales, and there's this fun nuance in small ABV. And so from brewing standpoints, from marketing standpoints, I kind of want to talk about it all with you. But the first question I have, and Natalie, I'll start with you, is what do you see as the state of little beers in America right now?
I think that we've been having a really fun time at Wayfinder, kind of just like discovering what we think contemporary lager is. And inside of that, it's a lot of lower alcohol lager beer. And at our brewery, Wayfinder specifically, I'm pretty interested in using, I just like delicate in general. And I think in kind of like wrapped into that is low alcohol. For example, we just rebrewed a beer called Nothing Sacred, and it was a collab with our friends from Narragansett, and New Belgium.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's this.
So Kelly and Lee.
Yeah, Kelly and Lee.
Okay. I like that.
Very fun, but it's a little like 4.9% rice lager, and then we add a little bit of osmanthus flour, which kind of tastes like peach fuzz, and then we do a tiny bit of Whirlpool edition of Crush.
Okay.
It's hard to say, not to say 586. But yeah, like the whole point of that is just have this really soft, delicate, super light peach beer, but really drinkable, and we're having fun with things like that.
I want to dive into ingredients in just a little bit, but Shaun, same question to you though, of what you see as the state of low ABV beers for you these days.
So Noble Beast is a brew pub, and as time goes on, we become more and more brew pubish and restaurantish than bar, and brewery tap room like we kind of initially envisioned. And with that, I've seen much more appreciation for smaller beers, and sometimes you get those middle ABVs from like 6 and up, and if it's not an IPA, it really kind of flounders, and people gravitate towards just more drinkable beers. Having a couple, I think, generally they just kind of, there's a much more acceptance of having a couple lighter lagers and driving home than pounding IPAs.
Well, there's also, from the business standpoint, and Brandon, you would know this as well, and I know this banner is hitting you right now, so if you need to move, we can accommodate that.
I'm all good. Thank
Okay. But you want people to stay as long as you can, or as long as they can, and some of those 12%ers just doesn't do it, even in small glasses. So, encouraging people to have a 4% or 4.9 or whatever, it probably keeps them in a little bit longer, I'm guessing. Yeah. So again, first question to you then, Brandon, state of little beers. How do you see it?
For what we're making at Edmund's Oast Brewing Company, we have been able to dip into some more classic English styles, milds, bitters, pale ales, things that we really like to drink. That kind of coupled with the cask program we have in our tap room, that's been fun. We like drinking those beers. And most of what we sell is around the 5-ish, kind of 6% alcohol range. So I get that. I do sales for the brewery. So when I take new beers into an account, a lot of times when I reveal that whatever I'm bringing is in that ABV range, people are relieved. And they're happy about that. They're like, I thought this was going to be 11, 12% alcohol. Yeah, we produce a fun little blonde ale called Cereal for Dinner.
I was going to ask you about this, Yeah,
it has a little bit of lactose, some toasted coconut, vanilla, and almond. And it's 5% alcohol, and it's dry and appetizing and drinkable. And usually when you throw that flavor profile out, people are scared that it's going to be super sweet, sticky, high in ABV. And it's not. It's really a fun beer to try people out on because they're shocked at how drinkable and honestly, how fun it is to still drink beer.
But the interesting thing, right, because when you started telling me about that beer before we went on, when we were talking on the green before, immediately in my mind, when you name those ingredients, it's like, that's going to be 9%. Like, that's going to be some big dumb stout. That's going to be some kind of, brain wrecker kind of thing. And it's fun. There's, from the sales standpoint, I'm wondering ABV and how that's marketed, to folks, right? Because there is this thought with craft, because for so long when we were thinking about those 9% stouts, people are like, well, yeah, if I'm going to spend X, I'm expecting to get fucked up. I'm expecting to get banged up. And then when you see a 5% or something, can that be a hard sell sometimes? And then how do you sort of communicate? And then it's going to kind of go to nuance and flavor from all that. And I want you guys to jump in just a second, but.
I think for the big beers, at least for a lot of the buyers that I'm interacting with, they're hesitant to put a lot of those beers on because they don't want their guests. It's exactly what you're kind of leading into. They want their guests to have a 2 to 3 glass purchase. They want them to hang out and relax and have a good time. And they don't want to have to deal with a customer that sat there and drank 3 pints of 11% alcohol, double, triple IPA.
That's like the meme of the cat walking in. It's like, oh, right. Lord, here comes again.
Yeah, here's the trouble. We do a lot of hoppy stuff. We love IPAs. We will make some double, triple IPA things during the year, but not nearly as much as our flagship Bound by Time, which is 7%.
Yeah.
Most of those IPAs that we make are in that range. And that's what we do really well with. And usually when I go in with an IPA, if it's over 8%, I start to get a little bit, I wouldn't call it a flinch, but a lot of buyers are just like, I don't know, that's a really big beer. It's going to cause trouble. People aren't going to stay. So that's what I hear a lot in the marketplace.
Yeah. Natalie, going back to ingredients, when you're thinking about low ABV beers and some of those, like what was the osmanthus flower? What leads the process for you? Is it you find a cool ingredient and then you build out a recipe from there? Is it, you're inspired by something, like you start with a base and then you try to find something that can complement it? Like when you're thinking about, low ABV but with big flavor or noticeable flavor or, subtle. I mean, you talk nuance before, delicate is the word you used before. Like what's the approach when you start building out some of these recipes?
Yeah, I think it depends on kind of what I'm interested at the time. I can't stop making rice lagers right now. I just love it. And
they're easy to make too, aren't they?
We have a cereal cooker, so it's easy for me. But
I just saw Lee Lord was making one, and she was just banging the shit out of bags of rice hulls and all of that, and yeah.
I did see that video too. Sometimes you just have to beat some rice hulls.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like one of those. What's the break room, like where you can just go and destroy stuff.
You either cry in the cooler or jump on rice hulls. Yeah. Yeah, we have a cereal cooker, so it's pretty easy for us to make rice lagers.
Okay.
And we buy raw Calrose rice.
Okay.
And I'm just obsessed with how clear and not yellow. They're like almost like white.
Yeah.
And so crushable, so dry. Ashley from Bierstadt and I made one a couple years ago. It was my first rice lager at Wayfinder, and since then I've just been crushing them. And so that's kind of a really good base for us to start for a lot of different beers. So if I'm interested in a particular ingredient, I often just build off of a similar rice lager. And again, it's just such a really nice, dry, clear base to start from. And we just were trying to do a pandan rice lager, and then I sourced the ingredients, and then there was a pandan shortage.
Okay.
Because it was raining a bunch in Hawaii. So then I have this
I don't know if I know what that is.
Pandan, it kind of looks like a leek, but tastes like toasted rice, sometimes like coconutty. It's in a lot of baked goods. It's often dyed green. So if you get a pandan pastry, it'll be lime green. But it's really cool. There is this restaurant in Portland called Pok Pok.
I feel like this is a very Portland thing. I'm not hearing there's not
I would say
there's not a big market in Jersey for this, as far as I can tell.
I think when you are really ingrained in food culture, it's so fun to eat something, and you're just talking about being inspired.
Yeah.
There's this restaurant called Pok Pok, and they were very famous for their spicy sticky wings, and they also had pandan water. So you come in, much like you would have cucumber water or something.
Sure.
They had pandan
spa water. Yeah.
And it's delicious. And that was the first time that I had it along with pastries. So it's kind of fine.
So it looks like a leek, but tastes like coconut.
Just I would say it's like toasted rice.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting, and I just really wanted to use that ingredient. So we made this plain rice lager. I put a little bit of some Southern Hemisphere hops in the whirlpool, so there's a little bit of lime pop to be kind of lime, toasted rice, coconut. And then there was a shortage of pandan, so then I couldn't find any. And then I have this kind of plain beer to deal with, and we messed around with different things. And I've never really used extracts. I'm not against it, but I don't really know how to. And ordered some stuff, and I couldn't figure it out. So we ended up just releasing this fairly plain rice lager that had a tiny little bit of whirlpool hop. And I guess the inspiration is sometimes you're trying to figure stuff out, and then how do you finish ideas and thoughts when sometimes things pivot. And main idea, being inspired by different ingredients, or just kind of trying to play around with rice lagers because it's fun.
Yeah.
But that changes. I used to make a beer called Delicate as Fuck, and it was a little...
It's awesome.
Well, we did this collaboration with an art museum, and we got given a piece of art, and we were supposed to make a beer off of it. And the picture was this, what I initially thought was a motorcycle gang, but it was a scooter gang.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, Delicate as Fuck. These dudes look hard, but they are not.
Okay.
And so we made this 4-something% grisette, little petite saison, and I don't know. That's a way to be inspired too.
Yeah. So Shaun, similar question to you then on the beers that you're making. Is it ingredients that lead it? Is it? I know you do a lot of historical style or classic styles. This Bohemian lager that we're drinking right now is just delightful. And so, where does it start for you? Where does the creative process start when you're thinking about a new beer that you're going to put out? Within spec or not? Where do you start?
I would say at this kind of range of smaller beers, they tend to be historical styles. So I'm pulling inspiration from the breweries that have been doing it for hundreds of years, and trying to kind of dig down, do some research into how's it brewed now, but maybe not even just right now, but how was it brewed 100 years ago?
So a lot of Ron Pattinson stuff.
Yes.
Maybe.
That can be difficult to parse through at times, but there is a lot of...
the word you're looking for is dense.
Interesting nuggets.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
talk to me about that, right? Because I've been thinking a lot about the resurgence of the Czech styles, or not even resurgence, but just the boom of them in the U.S. And obviously, you have places like Cohesion that have been doing it, and Notch has been doing it, and Sacred Profane has been doing it. With messing around with various Czech styles, and then everybody seems to kind of be doing them now, or a lot of folks seem to be doing them now. But there's not necessarily that diving into the historical thing. It's I read an article in a homebrew magazine, and now I think I know how to do this kind of thing. And I guess that's sort of my lead up into when you're diving into the historical styles, when you're diving into the research and looking back 100 years or more. What are you looking for, and then how do you know when you've dialed it in? How do you know when it's right for you?
As far as dialed it in, I guess that's pretty subjective.
Sure.
I guess looking back at.
But I mean, you're not going to release a beer that you're unhappy with. So when it's done for you, I guess it's Yeah,
I mean, being a pub, we brew a lot of different things all the time, and they don't always get the luxury of getting dialed in because often they're just kind of one and done.
Okay.
Which is a lot of fun, but sometimes that's challenging too because you don't get the chance to kind of keep tweaking things like this Union Pils and our Evil Motives IPA. Those are the only two beers that we continually make year round.
Yeah.
And so they get dialed in, but everything else is kind of I wish I could have changed this. Well, I'm not brewing another smoked Franconian Keller beer again for years, so.
I don't understand. The incredulous look on the crowd that you're not doing Rauch beers more often is. I mean, there's fives of people who want you to rebrew that beer.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was on for 5 months.
Was it that long? It was. Yeah.
It was close. It was probably close.
So, I mean, in that pub setting, I'm curious about this because if you're one and done. What's the right way of phrasing this? You can do the market research over the bar. You can see what's selling in 5 months versus 5 weeks versus 5 days, whatever kind of thing. Are there styles or categories that you come back to regularly, even if it's not the same beer, because you see it moves over the bar fairly well and people want that? Is it?
So, again, the luxuries of a pub.
Yeah.
I keep a bunch of beers on that are going to be popular and are going to move and are going to make sense, on the books.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't really care if the smoked Franconian Keller beer took 5 months to sell.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It tasted good, and I kind of hope that half my list are beers that might languish a little bit, but are interesting, and I mean that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You're also learning from that each time, because whether you're rebrewing the same beer and dialing stuff in, the conversations that you and I have had specifically about decoction, or even when you made the was it cedar or oak? What was the wood?
Beechwood.
Beechwood. we were talking about all the processes that you were doing making those beers, and then you might not make that exact same beer again, but like, I mean, we'll message back and forth about refilling filters, water filters, and different methods and stuff, because like, not to speak for you, but it feels like we're learning from those things. You're not necessarily dialing the same beer each time. You're just taking information from each beer, maybe applying it to the next one.
Absolutely. Everything's a learning experience, and you know, hopefully you're holding on to all of that and applying it to something else.
So I want to go back to something that you said before, Brandon, on some of the English ales that you're doing, and that also seems to be hitting a resurgence as well. And I don't know if that's just wishful thinking on my part, because I'm seeking out milds and bitters, and I'm seeing a lot of nitro golden ale, like nitro British, you know, golden ales on, and like, you know, like there's some fun things that are happening these days that are also that throwback of like the Boddington's age, or the, you know, the ESBs from Fuller's, or whatever. Talk to me about some of those, right?
You know, I mean, I think classic kind of never goes out of style. It may get hidden away for a little bit, but it's still kind of there. I mean, we produce a beer for a group of awesome hooligan fans from Arsenal, who come to the tap room. We open up early for the matches, and we made a 4.7% alcohol English IPA for those guys. Or English Pale Ale rather, and they love it, and we sell a ton of it. So much so that we canned it, have it labeled. We're pouring it here today. And people are very excited to try that, like dry, hoppy, appetizing, like English kind of spicy orange marmalade hop thing. And folks are just into it. And I think there's a little bit of a ritual that comes back to it. Maybe it's a cask thing. Maybe it's just having a 20-ounce Nonic pint in front of you. There's something about that just feels really good. Ingredient-wise, also, our director of brewing operations, Cameron, he's nerdy on many fronts about many things, but into ingredients and into tea as well. So we have had a couple of these pale ales and even some dark beers, some mild things, that we've had a small tea just introduction as far as an ingredient, and it gives it a lot of just really cool depth and drinkability. And I think for me, for a lot of those beers, that there's something in this beer that I can't put my finger on, so I'm going to have another sip to try to figure that out. And that leads to that drinkability that, I mean, I don't want to throw the word sessionability out, but when I'm in a bar or at a brewery and I'm halfway in to that first pint, and I know immediately that I'm ordering a second pint of that beer, I'm a very happy person.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for a lot of these nuanced beers, right? And I mean, this has got to be true for you guys as well, right? Where that first beer, if you're not really thinking about it and your glass is kind of emptying fairly quickly, like you want to experience that second one, because it starts to open up, your mind starts to wander a little bit. I mean, with that nuance, right? As a brewer, what do you look for? Like when you guys are walking around a fest like this, and people are making, you know, small little beers that they're super proud of. Like nobody's bringing, you know, their cast off. This isn't a distributor fest where everything's out of code and like, you know, like, why are there winter ales? Like, you know, it's not like one of those types of things, right? So like, what are you looking for as a brewer when you're drinking other people's beer at a festival like this?
I think like it goes without saying that we all know that you can't hide behind little beers, and that's why we really appreciate when one is made well and you can drink it. And for me, a little bit, I want to drink a beer, and I either want to not think about it at all and have no issues and it's just like quite lovely, or I want to be able to think about it. And I think that's a lot of what's happening at this fest. You can go around, try a lot of very well-made beers that don't have any flaws. You can just kind of drink through it, enjoy it, but if you want to stop and think about it, you can, because it is nuanced, and that's why you can stop thinking about it. We're trying to have a nice time.
Yeah. What about for you, Shaun?
I think with these little beers, one of the biggest things is to have a well-attenuated beer, but it still has body. So for me, it's like the body, like...
Thanks for bringing that up.
You have to have it, and on these smaller beers, it's easy to lose it, but they also need to be very drinkable and dry, crushable. So it needs to be well attenuated, but you can't lose that mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the first thing I notice on a beer that maybe doesn't have any, like, you know, obvious flaws that you're like pinging your brain, but does it have that like really nice kind of full mouthfeel, but still being light.
Without alcohol and glycerol and those things.
Yeah.
And Ben from Breakside always talks about, he says, artifacts of fermentation. So like if you have maybe a beer that's been diluted cold side, you do a high gravity fermentation, dilute it cold side. Are you completely wiping out all artifacts of fermentation, or is that you have a little bit more body mouthfeel because you've done the high gravity fermentation and then dilute it, or if you're doing the low, like just different approaches? And that's something that he always talks about that I like.
Yeah. And carbonation plays a big role, I know, in mouthfeel as well, but like, I mean, what's your approach, right? Because like, I mean, I'm digging this just because like it's really effervescent as well. Like it's got good body to it. It's got the flavors that I'm looking for in this style. But the carbonation is also really dialed in and makes it easy to keep coming back to it.
Like one tool, we have a cereal cooker as well, and decoction absolutely adds body. And so, whether you do that once, twice, or 3 times, sure, depending on the beer, I think that's a great lever to pull in a light, small beer like this. This lager here, is twice. So it's kind of just managing your fermentation, your attenuation through the mash.
Yeah.
And it can get really complicated when you're decocting, because depending on how you decoct, you can either boost your attenuation or kind of stymie it a little bit and slow it down. It's all just about kind of at what point are you frying all these enzymes and how much are you converting?
And the thing that I find interesting about these beers is like, I walk in and I'm a nerd and I want to know process and everything else like that. But like when you all start talking about decoction to the normal drinker, like to the person who comes into the pub or, comes into the restaurant, like whatever, that's a really tough one conversation to have in the 2.5 minutes you have with them, if it's even that long at the bar, kind of thing. Have there been ways that you've found to communicate what these beers offer based on process without having somebody's eyes glazed over, where they're just like, no, I just want a Pilsner. Like I don't need a history lesson. I just want a fucking beer. Like, have there been ways that any of you have been able to communicate simply? Is it just traditional methods, or I don't even know?
Yeah, I just talked to other brewers.
Okay.
I think that there's also...
People are the worst.
I think depending on what beers you have on tap and how educated your staff is, it's kind of a more educated consumer to your brand.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't understand what it means, but they can taste the difference between Helles and Pils, and whether they understand the hop and all the other components of it, but they can taste that there is a sweeter body. And you can be like, he is this. And that part of it is like, it's maybe not like a full education and an intense difference, but it's a little piece.
I think storytelling is super important to differentiate your beers, to sell them. So I think we use techniques and things like decoction from a consumer standpoint to make it a little more interesting, to get people more engaged with what this beer is. So we might focus more on the traditional aspects of decoction, and people think it's interesting. It's like a pre-thermometer technique. Like that resonates with people a lot more than talking about Maillard reactions and things like that.
And when you're pointing to the brewery, sorry to interrupt you, you're like, look, another vessel.
Yeah,
and
they
like,
all look the same, right? Yeah.
Stainless and hoses.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I love visiting all of your breweries and visiting breweries, but when I'm at somebody's place for the first time and they're just like, oh, would you like to see the brewery? It's like, oh, you got stainless and hoses back there? Cool. Like, no, I just want to talk about like what's in the glass. Yeah, the tanks, aren't they? But I mean, same question to you, Brandon. Like I know you sort of talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but the communication of it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're choosing what not to say versus what you're saying. You don't want to give people, I guess, dangerous information. I don't want to turn people off with too many technical terms. And I'm like in the streets. I'm usually talking to buyers. I'm talking to customers, folks like that.
People who get it.
Yeah. What we usually emphasize is we are a very ingredient-driven brewery. We're particular about the malts. We just did a triangle thing with 3 different chocolate malts from England for the mild that we just put out. Fascinating how different they really are, but do I dig deep on what the different malts are from the different places? Not for a customer, I don't. I just say, we are very quality driven. We hand select hops. We do things like that. We're particular about fruits. This is what we're trying to do. Our focus is always to put the best thing in the glass we can. We want flavor to be there. We want body to be there. We want it to be consistent.
Yeah. You brought up something before, Natalie, on not being able to hide flaws. And that's been, for me, covering this industry for the last 20 years, has been the really fun part of the last, I'd say, 8 or so years, as fests like this can exist because there's enough breweries that are doing hard to make beers that you can't hide something behind. Like, I think when I first started drinking, you'd go to the brew pub and it was like, oh, we got an amber, we got a brown, we got a Hefeweizen, and it's all the same yeast. It was like a brew in a bag kind of thing, and the higher the ABV, the more, there's a lot of shitty IPAs that were out there at the time, and people were just kind of hiding behind it. And then the technologies got better, the brewers, I think, got better and more serious about it. But is it nerve-wracking making those beers? Like, is it, like, I know you guys are pro, like, I would never attempt it because I'm not a brewer, but like, is when you know that there's nothing to hide behind, what's the brewer's psyche?
I think that maybe like saying hide behind, maybe I'm not like intentionally like saying that people are making beers that they're trying to hide behind, but I think that when you are maybe a little bit more vulnerable, here's this cute little beer, and there aren't a lot of hops in it, and recently we brewed a beer, and it was the middle of winter, and I let our yeast go one generation further than I usually do. It was part curious, part it's winter, and we're just doing shit, and as soon as the beer started fermenting, I was like, oh, she gonna smell weird. It smells good and the beer is good, but like it just is mutated enough from our normal strain that it just smelled a little bit more like fruity, and it wasn't exactly the way that I wanted it. And I did feel a little bit like it wasn't perfect, and so we had to scrub it when we transferred it, and like just a couple different little things that I knew it was an intentional decision, but there are little things that happen when you are going from your normal QA, QC things, and we're a very small brewery without a lab, and a lot of what we're doing is sensory based, and I knew that was something that could happen, and the aroma was a little bit off, and I knew that. The beer was good and it was fine and there was nothing wrong with it, but it just wasn't as dialed as I want it to be. So like part of that like hiding behind things is like it's knowing your process, knowing your ingredients, being very ingredient driven, and paying attention and making good decisions all the way through, having your cellar staff, your sales rep, like having everyone know what's going on, and caring for the beer all the way through. You just have to pay attention.
Yeah. Shaun.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's nerve-wracking. It's kind of another day in the office for the most part.
Right, and I'm not trying to create drama where there's not, but yeah.
But,
no drama.
But certainly, like, you're watching everything a little bit closer, I think. Instead of just setting your boil and walking away, you might be, making sure it's kind of rolling at the point you want.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, everything's boiled off.
Yeah,
not that you wouldn't do that normally, though, right? It's just like a little more careful.
Yeah, you're being more careful. I mean, if there's anything that you're kind of tasting out here right now, it's probably a bunch of DMS. And that's kind of thing where like, you got to be extra careful. If I'm making an IPA with, pale malt or two-row or something, that's really not at the forefront of my mind, making sure that like DMS is an issue. So all the way through fermentation, you're probably like dropping from the cone a little bit more, things like that, but they're just another brew day at the end of the day.
Okay. Seasonality, I think, is important as well, right? And I mean, on Steal This Beer, we talk a lot about like the situational drinking, like where would I drink this and why would I drink, that kind of thing. And there is something about winter where you just kind of want darker beers. Like there's just something that is comforting about it, psychological or not. Brandon, from your perspective, right, the seasonality of selling low ABV, of session beers, of being out there, like, do you have an approach to it?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say that we absolutely do seasonal beers, and a lot of the ones we do,
or even just your core of like ones that you push at various times of the year because maybe they fit in a little bit better.
We do a line of fruited sour beers year round.
On purpose?
Yeah, just every 4 weeks you get a new flavor. The summer usually sees a big uptick in that because they're refreshing, tart, sour, they're bright. But we make those year round. Lagers, things like that, we make them when we have tank space, and when we can give that beer its due time and cold conditioning.
Yeah. I
wouldn't say the lower ABV beers are necessarily have a schedule for that. I mean, we also are in Charleston, South Carolina, so like our 5% alcohol blonde ale is our number one selling thing.
Sure.
So that for the weather always works. The seasonality we get in our distro footprint in the Southeast just isn't as dramatic as you would see it in other places.
Okay. What about for you, Shaun? Seasonality, what you're brewing for?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're very seasonal.
Okay.
You're gonna see that Bock Schwartz beer come out in the wintertime. Just released in Eisbock last week.
Really?
Yeah. So the beers definitely get darker and stronger in the wintertime.
Okay. I know we're talking about little beers, but tell me about your Eisbock.
Yeah, I'm kind of an imposter to be on like a little beers panel at times.
You're not. No, when I was at your place 2 years ago in the middle of I think for you guys like a normal snowstorm, but that was wildly unpleasant to be in.
That was above average.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
I mean, I got snowed in, like the airport shut down and everything else like that. But I was able to walk back to my hotel because you had really nice low ABV beers on offer. So, but talk to me about an Eisbock for just a second. Like, let's.
So we've accidentally made ice
beers. Are you
beers.
allowed to make those?
Well,
the TTB is not listening.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we won't get too specific. But it was kind of a base Doppelbock, an 8% primary fermentation with decreased IBUs. Because when we've accidentally...
Is that your lawyer pinging you on your watch and being like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up?
I'm not sure why she's calling, Actually, you know what? That was very timely. My attorney is calling me. I'm not sure why. Probably not good.
Is that actually your attorney calling?
It was.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was just making the joke, but that's pretty great. All right.
Everything's fine.
Everything's great.
Yeah. Decreased bitterness because when we've had chiller issues and all of a sudden had surprise ice beers, the bitterness kind of goes through the roof.
Okay.
Had traditionally, right, you're freezing these beers and moving the beer off the ice.
Yeah.
Had we done that, it would have gone up about 1.3% alcohol.
Okay.
Lost 35% for like a little more than 1% ABV gain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brendan's eyes just went wide when you said that.
Not a very efficient way to make beer, but...
No. But that's fun.
Yeah, so like ton of body, ton of sweetness, but very drinkable.
Yeah.
Alcohol is very present, but not harsh.
Okay. So same question for you then, for seasonality as well. How does that work for you all?
So in Portland, I would say we sell significantly more hoppy beer, IPAs throughout the winter. And then as soon as summer hits, we have a great patio, so people drink a lot of pale, light, low alcohol lager.
Yeah.
We sometimes jokingly call summer the summer of pills because we just make a lot of Pilsner in the summer, a bunch of different types.
Summer of cream ale. That's trying to make it happen.
Yeah, we also make some higher alcohol lagers October, November, and we make our Czech Dark lager pretty much all year round.
Okay.
But yeah, if we don't have a dark beer on, people want one, so we try to have one, and that would be the one that we have on. But I would say it leans more like hop heavy and light heavy than high alcohol. But obviously, IPAs are higher alcohol, so a component of it.
Okay. Jump ball, I want to hear from all of you though, but low ABV, little beers with food. What have you found that works? Like what are pairings that you guys have found at your restaurants, out in the world, that just slaps?
I I like eating and drinking beer.
Well done.
Yes.
That was an excellent stall. That was really, really good.
And go.
Yeah.
Once a year we make Pivo Grudziska, so our Greatzer smoked wheat beer. That's probably one of the actually like lowest ABV beers we make at 3.2.
I was going to say, yeah, that's
At this point, like all these, we make a lot of like 4.9% lagers. It seems like just kind of standard anymore.
I kind of forget that that's low alcohol because it's kind of the range that we make a
it's just
lot
kind of
of our
normal.
beers,
Like beers have just kind of shifted that way, but that beer I think is great with a lot of different foods. It's super effervescent. 3 volumes of CO2 in there. Big billowing head. It's just kind of presentation. It looks great next to food.
Okay.
The smokiness stands up to a lot of different things.
Okay. What do you got there?
So a couple things. One, we have a lot of very cool barbecue restaurants in Charleston.
Sure.
And that, number one, not having anything high in ABV. I mean, a lot of those foods are heavy, they're rich, you want to eat a lot of it. Having something that's appetizing, dry, something you can have a lot that you don't get tired of. I was in Prague not too many months ago, eating very typical Prague food, which is, heavy goulash, bread, cheese, a lot of meat stuff, and I drank gallons of Czech pale lager and was shocked at how much of that beer I could drink all day long.
Sure.
And with the food, and I wasn't bloated, I wasn't full, I didn't feel sad. I was very, very
sad.
If you're in a place that doesn't have Underberg and you eat too much and you get the sads, you don't want to move around anymore.
No, you gotta go home.
And of course everybody in Prague, they're selling pale lager. Everything's on a side pull, so they're degassing the beer. Everybody pours the beer right. And it's a ritual. And for me, for small beer, that is a very attractive thing. It's like I go in and I see them pour my beer. It's like going to a coffee shop, a really good coffee shop, and they're making my coffee drink, and I'm like, oh shit, there she goes. Oh, she knows what she's doing. Yes, that's beautiful, and I want it. And when I see my beer being poured and showing up, I'm excited for that. And there's an art and a skill to that and the service of it that I think helps small beer out in a big way.
I like that. We have a few minutes left. You all have been on the podcast before, I think. Yes. And I think I've asked you all the green door question. And I know maybe that might have been before you were on very early, Natalie. So I'm going to ask the green door question again, even though we're at Little Beers and this is kind of a little bit different. But if you're not aware, the premise of the question is, at the early part of the pandemic, my wife and I were looking for levity in life because everything was terrible, and we started rewatching The Good Place. And in the final season of The Good Place, they introduce a concept of the green door, and the characters can walk through it and be wherever they want to be, doing whatever they want to be doing. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence and this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be at any pub or any brewery in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking? Brandon, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
I know you've answered this before, but yeah.
This is the place I've been before. I've only been to London once before, but I got a recommendation of a pub for cask ale from a very dear friend, Matty Hargrove, who is
the Royal Oak. He sent you to the Royal Oak, didn't he?
The Royal Oak. It's a Harvey's brew pub.
It's so good.
And I've read all of Michael Jackson's stuff.
Sure.
And Harvey's like special bitter is like his jam.
Yeah.
And I went to that pub and had that, and it is a not a caricature. It is a portrait. Like if you describe to me cask ale as romantically as you possibly could, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I love that beer, and it was interesting as far as small beers go. I simultaneously had the best pint of cask beer in my life, which was that one, followed by the worst cask beer behind it. We had at
the same place?
We had a mild that they had on cask, and it was an essay in flaws. Diacetyl, lactic acidity, oxidation.
Flaws.
It's just like, okay, one of these moves really well, and one of these doesn't. And we're sitting in a pub in London. But I would go there and drink gallons of that beer. And
it's so good.
Very, very happy.
It's so good. I was there in October, and the Royal Oak is so special.
It's a real thing.
Shaun, I know I've asked you this question, but...
So I have this obsession with this Austrian beer garden called Schweizerhaus, I
Okay.
think. And I follow them online, and they fill their glasses with foam from like a fire hydrant almost, and then it just settles out, and then they top them up, and you have this big billowing ice cream of
Like
cone.
coming like over the top
it's
of
like
the
3 inches out of the glass. So I really want to go there. I want to
Okay.
check this place out.
All right.
I guess I'd take Ron Pattinson, pick his brain for a couple hours.
The word you're looking for is dense. I love Ron. Like, that's the thing. He's a good friend, but yeah, it's really difficult. It's like between him and John Palmer's books. I try very, very hard, and I make it through, but it is. You know the whole thing about John Palmer's water book is that the last 400 pages are blank, but nobody's gotten that far to realize.
I think I've read that 3 times and still processing.
I've gotten lost on sentences in that, like hopelessly in the weeds on that. I told John that joke once, and he didn't know if he should be horrified, pissed off, or if it was actually funny or not. And then I told that joke at HomebrewCon in front of like a room of people who worship him, and I didn't know if I was going to make it out alive. So, how dare you speak about Palmer that way? Anyway, I've given you enough time, I hope.
Probably.
Natalie Rose
You
Baldwin.
forgot to say who you'd bring with
Yeah,
you.
who are you going to bring with you to the Royal Oak?
I don't care for other people.
Yes. Okay, this is good.
I love that. That's me, myself, and I.
I was thinking about anywhere in the world I could go. Obviously, a lot of really cool places, and not just because I'm looking at my friend Ashley, but
That's Don Tess. Oh no, that's okay. I'm sorry.
I'm from Colorado, and a lot of times what I do when I fly home is I get to Denver, drive to my parents' house, and then on the way back, sorry if I cry, on the way back I stay at Ashley's house. And the last couple years there was a lot of pretty intense stuff happening in my life, and a lot of times I would get back to the brewery before she was doing something, and I would have a beer, and then we would go have dinner and do something, and it was just this really beautiful, safe place. I think she makes okay beer too. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bierstadt, but it's okay. But it's just it's this really beautiful, sacred place to me, and it's beloved by all, and she would have to hang out with me and cry with me too, so. Gotcha, bitch.
I love this. That's delightful. Thanks for sharing that. I think we can all agree that Bierstadt is a national beer treasure, and it's and the host of this year's Great American Beer Festival. So it's just going to be great. Hey, thanks to the three of you for doing this. Thanks for making cool little beers. Thanks for being at Little Beers. Thanks for sharing your insights. And thanks to everybody for coming out.
Thanks.
Quick programming note. Goodword is hosting a different kind of festival next month. Mighty Fine is a celebration of the West Coast IPA, and it's bringing in brewers from around the country for an afternoon of clear liquid and bitter hops. It's happening on June 21st. Get more info at Goodword's website, and All About Beer will be there doing panels just like this one that you just heard, but with an IPA focus. So be on the lookout for that. Also, you can go visit allaboutbeer.com, where you can find new content as well as the archives, which go all the way back to 1979. And a reminder that you can reach me anytime on email. It's John Holl at allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL. And remember to follow All About Beer on social media at All About Beer. Before we run, here is a word from this week's sponsors. Stomp Stickers isn't just a website. It's your custom printing partner with over 30 years of expertise. Their support squad is ready to help by phone, chat, or email. Combining top-notch customer service with a super easy-to-use site, they're all about making sure you get exactly what you need, fast. Shop with confidence thanks to their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Visit stompstickers.com and use code ThinkBeer for 15% off of your first order. If you're running a brewery, owner or operator, Beer 30 by The Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery's sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and to the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and receive 3 free months of Beer 30. All About Beer has a podcast channel, so just search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. As for this show, Nate Schweber does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.